Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Quality proteins aren't just for special occasions. With Omaha Steaks, you get unbeatable flavor and value delivered right to your door. They have an unmatched selection of perfectly portioned proteins, including USDA-certified tender steaks, burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and more. All flash frozen at their moment of peak quality. Then quickly delivered to your door in a dependable cooler. So a great dinner is just minutes away. From Taco Tuesday to a weekend feast. Omaha Steaks practically invented meat delivery, and they've been perfecting the art of premium proteins for over 100 years. With their 100% satisfaction guarantee, you can order with complete confidence. Taste the Omaha Steaks difference. A better, more convenient way to buy proteins. Start getting flavorful proteins delivered today. Visit omahasteaks.com and get $35 off with promo code AUDIO at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, code AUDIO. Terms apply. See site for details.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm up from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Danny Vietti. He does such great work over at CBS Sports. We're going to be chatting it up with him about what we've all been seeing here in baseball through the first month and a half, 2 months of the season, the NL Central, how competitive that race is. We're going to highlight my guys, the Milwaukee Brewers, and the run that they've been able to get on. How sustainable is it? How great is that pitching staff with Jacob Mizorowski, Kyle Harrison and company? So that makes me happy. Which of these struggling American League teams might be due in for a little bit of positivity as well. And then in the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, that mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via the 5-star review. Well, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today. We had ourselves a fun day of baseball on Thursday. Let's take a look back at it. Try to find some friends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Pittsburgh Pirates walked the plank to a 6-2 win over the St. Louis Cardinals. Pair of home runs in this one. Henry Davis, third home run of the campaign. That comes off of Justin Brule, came out of the bullpen. And then Dustin May, well, it was May Day for his ERA. 4 runs allowed and 5 1/3 innings, including a home run given up to Brandon Lau. He gets allowed. 13th home run season. From there, Gordon Gaseffo, pair of outside the bullpen scorers. Brule, I mentioned, pair of runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning, including that home run. Matt Savanson, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. And then you had a Pushard be able to give you a scoreless inning. Matt Pushard. And for the Pirates, Braxton Ashcraft was great. Solo home run allowed in 7 innings. Ivan Herrera, his 6th home run of the campaign. Wilber Dotel gives up a run in an inning. And then Mason Miller polishes off the 9th with a scoreless inning. Yankees held scoreless by the Toronto Blue Jays 2-0. The Jays get the job done. Braden Fisher was the opener in this game. 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. All 4 were punch-outs. Adam Mako from there, he was able to give you 4 outside the bullpen as well. Spencer Miles, the main long guy, 4 1/3 innings scoreless. Yankees struck out 14 times in what was essentially a bullpen game. From there, Tyler Rogers, a scoreless inning, and Jeff Hoffman, scoreless inning. Blue Jays go just 1 of 10 with men in scoring position, but George Springer had a deep fly in this one, 4th home run on the campaign. That comes off of Camilo Yadval, who gives up that home run in 2/3 of an inning. Carlos Rodon, not bad in this start. He takes a loss, but 1 run allowed over the course of 5 innings. From there, Brent Hendrick was able to give you a scoreless inning. Paul Blackburn walks the plank for 2 scoreless innings, and Giovanni Cruz came out of the bullpen. He was able to give you an out scoreless as well, being able to keep things very low scoring, the New York Mets 2-1. They take down the Washington Nationals as David Peterson, great name. He gives up 1 run over the course of 5 innings. From there, Oscar Brisbane, Brooks Raley, Luke Weaver, Devin Williams all end a scoreless inning. And for the Nationals, Kate Cavalli pitched well enough to win this game in my opinion. 2 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings. Clayton Beater or Rolando Robalta both give you a shutout inning, but for the Nationals, 0 of 8 with men in scoring position, that's just not going to cut it. The Braves offense continues to cut it though, 9-3. They take down the Miami Marlins as Sandy Alcantara lit up in this game. 6 runs allowed in 6 innings, taken deep twice. Mikey Stremski, 3rd home run of the campaign, and then Michael Harris, home run number 10 of the campaign. He'll get home run number 11 in the 9th inning off of Pete Fairbanks as Fairbanks gives up that home run in his inning work. Cade Gibson, 2 runs allowed in 2 innings, and Spencer Strider, he allows 3 home runs. All 3 were solo shots, so he gives up 3 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Kyle Stowers found his power stroke. 2nd and 3rd home runs of the campaign. Owen Casey is 4th. From there, Dylan Lee, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and then Robert Suarez, Dylan Dodd, the Dodd father. They're both able to give you a scoreless inning, and the Detroit Tigers have now lost 14 out of their last 16 games. 3-1, the Cleveland Guardians get the job done. Joey Cantillo, nice start here. 5 2/3 innings scoreless. Matt Festa had a Fiesta and out of the bullpen scoreless. Sean Armstrong along with Cody Hewer both give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Tim Herron, who's been very good for the Guardians, he gives up the lone run in this game. Dylan Dingler takes him for a solo shot, 9th home run on the campaign. From there, you were able to get a scoreless inning off of Hunter Gaddis, and Casey Mize, solid start here. 2 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. Just something doing from his offense as the Tigers left 9 men on base. Birch Smith does give up his home run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Home run number 2 for Patrick Bailey, newly acquired by the Guardians, and then Emmanuel De Jesus, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless, but too little too late there. For the Angels, it was too little too late for them as well. 3-2. They fall to the Athletics as for the A's, they were able to get some really good bullpen pitching in this one, and a nice start out of Luis Severino as well. Goes 7 innings, punches out 10, does give up 2 runs, including a home run to Nolan Chunel, 4th home run of the campaign, but from there, Justin Sterner, Joe Kunal, Mark Leiter Jr., I'll give you a scoreless inning for the Athletics. They did leave 12 men on base, so they left some guys out there for Jose Soriano. Relatively solid start here. 6 2/3 innings, gives up 2 runs. From there, Chase Silseth, and out of the bullpen scoreless, Jose Fermin, Kirby Yates, they both supply a scoreless inning, and then Ryan Zeferian gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning as it was a play that was challenged and overturned. So that was big for the Athletics there, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they find a way to persevere 2-1 over the Colorado Rockies. For the Rockies, Zach Ognos, a little bit of a surprise start. They pushed back Tomoyuki Sugano, and he gave 5 shutout innings. From there, you did have Seth Halverson give you a shutout inning. Blas Castano, hopefully I got that correct, he gives up 1 run over the course of 2 innings, and then Juan Mejia, he gives up the game winner in the 9th. Corbin Carroll, RBI single, walks it off as the Diamondbacks did leave 10 men on base in this game, but they find a way to persevere, and Eduardo Rodriguez continue his really nice start to the season. 7 shutout innings out of him. From there, Juan Murillo gives up a run in a 1/3 of an inning, but Kevin Ginkel gets a pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Paul Sewald, a squirrel's 9th inning, 6 pitches, 6 strikes. So that was impressive out of him. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in baseball right now, it has still been an overwhelming season in terms of the totals, but things are starting to, shall we say, normalize a little bit. 368 overs, 358 unders, and 21 pushes along the way. So 50.7% hit rate to the over. Favorites on the money line hitting more around about 56%, 408 and 320 on the money line. And out of those 408 favorites, we have seen 90 not be able to cover the run line, and over the last 7 days, favorites have had a tough time on the run line. Even though favorites are 52 and 39 on the money line, that's 57.1%. 19 of those favorites have failed to cover the run line. Meanwhile, the over rate just a hair above 50% over the last 7 days. 46 overs, 45 unders, and 4 pushes. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do chat it up with our good friend Danny Vietti of CBS Sports right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Feast and Family podcast.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Quality proteins aren't just for special occasions. With Omaha Steaks, you get unbeatable flavor and value delivered right to your door. They have an unmatched selection of perfectly portioned proteins, including USDA-certified tender steaks, burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, and more. All flash frozen at their moment of peak quality, then quickly delivered to your door in a dependable cooler. So a great dinner is just minutes away. From Taco Tuesday to a weekend feast, Omaha Steaks practically invented meat delivery, and they've been perfecting the art of premium proteins for over 100 years. With their 100% satisfaction guarantee, you can order with complete confidence. Taste the Omaha Steaks difference, a better, more convenient way to buy proteins. Start getting flavorful proteins delivered today. Visit omahasteaks.com and get $35 off with promo code AUDIO at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, code AUDIO. Terms apply. See site for details.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Danny Vietti aboard. He's doing such great work looking at this great game of baseball over at CBS Sports. On top of that, he does a great job with his own podcast, the Wake and Rake podcast. He does that with Will Middlebrooks, World Series champion of the Boston Red Sox. More importantly, on this podcast, a former Milwaukee Brewer. So always do appreciate that. For Danny on the old Twitter/X, you're able to follow him at his first and last name, Danny Vietti. Last name is spelled Vietti. And Danny, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Anytime, brother. I feel like anytime I join your Milwaukee Brewers in atop the National League Central, and it feels like it's been that way for like 3 straight years since I started joining your podcast. So props to you. Congrats to you.
It's been absolutely wild. And how do you take a look at this Brewers team right now? Because they aren't doing it with the deep ball. They're one of the lowest teams in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis in all of baseball. It's not like they're doing it with a bunch of household names or anything like that, but they absolutely sweep the Chicago Cubs in the series earlier in the weekend. It just feels like this team has become a, shall we say, factory of being able to rehab arms and being able to get the most out of these starting pitchers that maybe some other teams are overlooking.
No, it really is. It's pitching staff wise, it reminds me now of what Cleveland has been and has been for a decade plus. And it's just a factory. They replenish arms and they bring in young guys and they bring in players who failed in other organizations and they find ways to make them thrive. This is hindsight bias, but how the Red Sox got rid of Kyle Harrison 6 months after trading for Kyle Harrison in the Rafael Devers trade, and now Harrison 9 starts, 1.77 ERA, a strikeout per 9 of 11.6. How the Red Sox let this guy go, regardless of what their roster is. Again, hindsight bias.
And they traded David Hamilton and Shane Drone too.
It just doesn't make sense. And this is as much a slight to that Boston front office as it is a compliment to this Milwaukee Brewer front office, because not only were they able to acquire Harrison, but they have been able to get the most out of him. 59 strikeouts and 45 innings pitched. And you put that alongside Jacob Mizorowski, who aged 24 is looking like an absolute superstar in the making. And this has been without Brandon Woodruff. What they do with their pitching staff is as impressive as anything in the league. It compares to what the Tampa Bay Rays do offensively year in and year out. It compares to what the Cleveland Guardians do with their starting rotation, what the San Diego Padres do year in and year out with their bullpen. This is Milwaukee, and this is what they do.
Yep, it's just absolutely wild what we've been seeing there, and it has been a lot of fun. And what do we make out of the entirety of the NL Central? Because while the Brewers are currently in first place in the division, it continues. All 5 teams are above 500 in that division. I mean, heck, you've got all 5 teams above 26 wins. You have 3 total American League teams with 26 plus wins. It feels like it's going to be a really fun race. I do think that the Brewers have a nice edge here, but the Cubs continue to play good baseball, and I feel like the Cardinals are one of the best stories in baseball that it feels like nobody's talking about.
They are. I hate to be such a pessimist here, but I do fear that the Cardinals will eventually just return back to life at some point. By back to life, I mean a team that is rebuilding. They have a lot of young talent that they're very excited for the future. Weatherholt's turning into an all-star caliber player. Jordan Walker's finally breaking out. Mason Wynn has all the tools in the world to be an everyday shortstop. Liberatore has looked nice as a starter, finally. So they have some building blocks. But at the end of the day, you look at this lineup, and there's just not a whole lot of firepower. And so you would expect them to eventually come down to earth at some point. I think Pittsburgh has kind of similar to a lot of the teams in the American League West. They're just not a complete team. They have a starting rotation, and they're expected to get Jared Jones back at some point, their former top pitching prospect from a few years ago. Him, Skeens, Keller, I mean, that rotation is legit. It's just a question of whether they have enough bullpen depth and offensive firepower to be able to sustain things. I think Chicago and Milwaukee, they have enough talent on paper. I see no flaws in either of those rosters. Cincinnati, it really comes down to health. I mean, they have a starting rotation when healthy that is as good as any. But Hunter Green is still not back. Lodolo has dealt with a number of injuries across his career. Chase Burns has dealt with injuries in his young career. So if Cincinnati can stay healthy, again, it's a question of whether they have enough offensive firepower to sustain. But this is a division that, in my opinion, holds 3 to 4 playoff caliber rosters.
Yep, absolutely. And it's going to be fun to watch that, to say the least, as Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And I did give a little bit of a backhanded slight there to the American League, the fact that we've only got 3 teams above 500. And just how do we look at the landscape of the American League? Because the Yankees are going to be a mainstay. I feel good about saying that. I think we've seen enough to know that the Rays, with everyone else in the American League, they're going to be just fine. But outside of that, it feels like there's a big load of question marks. Aside from maybe the fact that the Angels won't be competing for a playoff spot, I feel comfortable in saying that. But outside those few things, it feels like things are wide the heck open out there in the American League.
Yeah, and there's a lot of teams in the American League that we just flat weren't expecting for them to be in this position. I mean, the Toronto Blue Jays were an out away from winning the World Series, and they're a couple outs away maybe. And here they are at 22-27. They've dealt with a lot of injuries. They finally just got George Springer back, so hopefully that provides them with an extra boost to that offense. But Toronto has definitely not gotten off to the start they would have hoped. Boston Red Sox, a playoff team a year ago, fired their manager already. They're starting to play better baseball consistently, but at 22-27, they still got an uphill climb. You look at the Detroit Tigers. In my opinion, the Detroit Tigers had as high of championship aspirations coming into the season as anybody in baseball, especially considering the fact that Tarek Skubal is going to be a free agent at year's end. Well, Skubal has hit the shelf, and the Tigers have now lost 1 of 9. The Kansas City Royals, they were expected to be a team at least vouching for a playoff spot. The Houston Astros were not expected to fall off a cliff. The Seattle Mariners were a couple innings away from making the World Series over Toronto. They've gotten off to a 24-27 start. So a lot of teams in the American League with talent, but a lot of teams in the American League that have not played up to expectations.
Yep, they certainly have not. And I think that the Tigers situation is so interesting because they're the team that I'm most surprised by to the negative pretty much across all of baseball over the last few weeks. You mentioned it. I think they've now lost 14 out of their last 16 games. Putting Tarek Skubal on the injury list hurts the seam, but what else are you seeing from them? Because I really think that the offense has taken a massive dive, and that's been underreported because everyone's talking about Tarek Skubal, but at the same time, it just feels like they have guys that get on base, but not a lot of power at this point, too.
Last year, a lot of things went their way, right? Like all of a sudden, it was Javi Baez who returned to his all-star form. But in a couple of years prior to that, I mean, Javi Baez was looking like arguably the worst wins above replacement output in baseball. Spencer Torkelson was really finding his way a year ago. This season, he's regressed, 686 OPS. Zach McKinstry was hitting the ball well a year ago. Riley Green was an all-star, still is an all-star, is still hitting at a high clip. But it just feels like a lot of things went right for this team last year, a team that didn't really have a whole lot of starting pitching depth, but had enough. This season, they've been hit hard by the injury bug to that starting rotation. I think they have 3 or 4 of their projected starting pitchers on opening day. They have at least spent 15 days on the injured list already. So they've gotten beaten up, and the offense is not performing the way it did a year ago. And at this juncture in the season, I mean, it's still very, very early. But 11 games under 500, they're not expected to get Skubal back at least bare minimum for a few more weeks. From the Tigers' standpoint, Skubal, a free agent at year's end, if they continue to fall and fall, they're going to have a very tough decision on their hands of whether or not to trade the back-to-back American League Cy Young and Tarik Skubal.
Yep, it is going to be a tough decision for the Tigers because we had good expectations for them, but man, they are not coming to fruition right now. Health, and there have been a few guys that have been underperforming this far this season. It's all adding up to it, and we're talking about the American League right now, and we talk about so many disappointments. Is there a team or two that you just see some positivity for, and you feel like they might be able to turn it around and be able to get out of the current rut that they're in the American League?
I mentioned Toronto. I still am high on this team's culture, this team's roster. I mean, early on in the season, they were just going down like flies. Trey Savage started the season on the injured list. Jose Barria starting the season on the injured list. Tommy John, Shane Bieber, injured list. Max Scherzer, injured list. Yimi Garcia. These are all-star caliber arms for Toronto. Right now, the lineup, at least offensively, is returning back to health, slowly but surely. And so the hard part about having so many injuries early on, it's tough to get things going consistently with the bat when you haven't been getting consistent at bats. That's what's so great about spring training. Is spring training gives you the reps on a day-to-day basis to hopefully get into midseason form early on in the season. But if you're dealing with injuries throughout March, throughout April, all of a sudden it's May, and now you're playing catch up through maybe a few rehab at-bats in the minor leagues, it just doesn't prepare you well for big league everyday at bats. And so I think with this roster now returning to health, you have Savage, Gausman in the starting rotation. The bullpen's still a bit shaky for my liking, but that's easily fixable. You got Springer back into the fold, Guerrero, Varsho, Okamoto's hitting the you-know-what out of the baseball. I would expect Toronto to turn things around very, very quickly.
Yep, I think that Toronto is going to be in for a little bit of upside as well, and I want to ask you about this team because they're the team that in the American League, I think that they've got the most untapped potential, and that would be the Texas Rangers because I really like what I'm seeing on the pitching right now. Cooper Rocker actually looked really good at Coors over a few days ago. I think you'd agree with me. The offense has left something to be desired, but I also think that that's a big byproduct of Arlington being much more pitcher-friendly than a lot of people want to give it credit for. How do you take a look at this Rangers team? One that I think they've got the sort of rotation that can wreak some havoc out there in the American League, but obviously needs more consistency at the plate.
Pitching-wise, one of the best rotations, one of the best staffs in all of baseball. The fifth best earned run average at 3.51. It's not just a rotation. The bullpen has surprisingly been very, very good despite having a lack of star power. Leiter, Eovaldi, DeGrom, that rotation has been fantastic. Kumar Rocker that you mentioned. Their worst starting pitcher thus far has been Mackenzie Gore, and he was an all-star a year ago. It could perhaps get even better. To me, it really comes down to it's never one player, but it kind of feels like this team really sits on the shoulders of Corey Seager. Because if you don't have your starting shortstop, an MVP candidate, playing on an everyday basis and playing at an all-star caliber level, it feels like you're going to need a lot of help from their complementary players. And they have a lot of good talent around them, but Corey Seager is the X factor, the MVP, the guy that needs to get going if they want their offense to go. And so Seager right now being on the injured list, if he can get back to his everyday all-star form, I like this team. I like this team's chances in the postseason, too, because of that starting rotation. But if Seager's not healthy, I question whether they have the firepower offensively.
Yep, I do as well. They're going to need Corey Seager to get back to where he was and perhaps add a bat or two at the trade deadline as well, but certainly a lot of upside there. And we always know that this podcast has a lot of upside when you're aboard, Danny. You're doing such a great job looking at this game of baseball over at the Wake and Rake podcast, CBS Sports, and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, I'm actually planning on doing a little bit of a deep dive on the Milwaukee Brewers and how exactly they are able to get the most out of their arms. So that'll all be available at Wake and Rake Pod, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And you can follow us on social media at Wake and Rake Pod.
Absolutely. Danny doing an incredible job looking at this great sport, and every single time he joins me, learns such great insights. So big thanks to Danny for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, I give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we catch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always a pleasure to be joined by Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports, looking at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So, big thanks to Danny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GUnit_81. We are going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order, and the Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, how about if we get things started? This is 9:51, 9:52 on the card. And it's the Cardinals. They're going to be on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati. Who's on to Chris Paddock getting the start for them. Kyle Leahy goes for the Cardinals. Cardinals between -104 to -110. Meanwhile, -110 to -115 is that number on the Reds. 9.5 is the total. The under is -110 to a -120. And the over is between even and -110. And I'm going to be in on the Cardinals. I did set their money line price at a -109. It's just been a really brutal year in general for Chris Paddock. He got DFA'd by the Miami Marlins after he was just absolutely stinking up the joint for him, and he's only giving up about 1.5 home runs and less than 3 walks per 9 innings, but there's not a lot of swing and miss here. The ERA is above a 7 as of right now. As a matter of fact, to be an exact 7.07. Looked a little bit better in his first start with the Cincinnati Reds, but now goes up against a Cardinals team that they have been absolutely destroying the baseball when they've been away from home. For St. Louis, their numbers get a little bit diminished because St. Louis is a bit of a pitcher-friendly ballpark when they're at home, but away from home, this is a bunch that's averaging about 5.1 runs per game. That is number 4 in all baseball. Meanwhile, you've got a Reds team that they play in a place where they call it Great American Ballpark for a reason. They've been averaging about 4.7 runs per game at home, and for Kyle Leahy, he does seem to be settling in a little bit more as a starter. He was bullpen piece last year, 3.94 ERA, 3 earned runs or fewer allowed in 7 out of his last 8 starts, but he does have a 487 fielding independent, 6.7 strikeouts, 3.9 walks per 9 innings. It is a little bit of top-heavy Reds lineup with having cousin Sal Stewart along with Ellie De La Cruz. Both give you a double-figure amount of homers, and then from there, you do have a little bit of a fall-off, though Nathaniel Lowe has been able to give you a little bit of upside as well. He's been a little bit touch-and-go recently, and J.J. Bleday, in a small sample size, has been able to hit above a 275 with a little bit of pop, but obviously having Eugenio Suarez out of the lineup for much of the season, that's been hurting them quite a bit, and you just need more out of these ancillary guys. C.J. Friedel, Cabrian Aves, Tyler Stevenson, Matt McClain, a whole bunch of guys are hitting at 210 or lower whenever they've trotted out there. Will Benson, not great to say the least, and for the St. Louis Cardinals, Jordan Walker has gotten off to a really nice start to the season. He's been able to fly a double-figure amount of homers, depending upon the day. He's either hitting a 300 or he's just below that at like a 295. And then you've got Alec Burleson move the line. He, J.J. Weatherholt, both give you between about a 355 to a 360 on base. Mason Wynn has been pretty solid in terms of getting on base. Iván Herrera is giving you some pop, 385 on base. Again, you have a few guys like Pedro Paz, Victor Scott that can give you a little bit more, but I'm liking what I'm seeing there. Both of these teams have fallen into the bottom half of the big league, so in terms of bullpen ERA, Tony Santillan over a 5 ERA for the Reds. Honestly, Emilio Guillen being on the injury list, not hurting this team as you've got Pierce Johnson and Brock and Roll Burke, who have both been able to give you some solid innings out of the bullpen. Flip side for the Cardinals, Jojo Romero is looking like that guy from a season ago. He, George Soriano, Riley O'Brien, sub 350 ERAs, and then Gordon Gaseffo has been good out of this bullpen as well, but Justin Brule is still rocking a 5 ERA. Matt Buschard isn't the answer. Ryan Stanek, Matt Svanson, these guys have been awful, so do you think they get a higher scoring game like the over sub I told 9.8, and with Cardinals one way up to -108 on that money line. 953, 954 on the card. It's the Metropolitans on the road against the Marlins. Uri Perez is on the bump for the Fish, and Freddie Peralta goes for the Mets, and the Mets do find themselves between -125 to -135 favorites. Meanwhile, between +108 to +110, that number on Miami total is anywhere between 7.5 to 8. On the 7.5 overs, -115 to -120. Unders between even to -105. On the 8, unders -120 to -115. Overs between even and -105. Now, if this sounds like an insert, well, that's because it is, because our good man Freddie Peralta got scratched for Tobias Myers, and right now the updated number is the Mets That's more around about a minus 112, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Marlins. With the update, I made the Marlins a minus 126 favorite because with Tobias Myers, I just don't think that you're going to be able to get a lot of length out of him. Now, the bullpen of the Mets has not necessarily been too bad, and Myers, by trade with the Milwaukee Brewers a few seasons ago, was a starter, came out of the bullpen much of the year last year, and he hasn't been bad for the Mets as far this season. 3.41 ERA, but closer to a 4.38 fielding dependent. He's giving up 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, and for Myers, I don't believe he's went further than 3 innings this far this season. 29 total innings over the course of 16 appearances, so you're most likely going to get a poo-poo platter of pitchers, and Sean Manaea as well. Manaea has been awful this year with north of a 5 ERA, and Erie Perez has gotten off to a relatively rough start to the season. Right now, he's got a nice hearty 5.33 ERA, 1.7 home runs, 4.8 walks per 9 innings, but you know that the raw stuff is there. He is getting 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, so you feel, look at the career splits of Erie Perez. He's always been significantly better at home rather than away from home. For his career, a 2.78 home ERA. At home, he's given up less than 1 home run per 9 innings. Away from home, he gives up over 2 home runs per 9 innings. He's got a 5.30 ERA, so that's something big to be taking a look at. And for the Miami Marlins, you have had a few guys like Anthony Bender that have been a little bit up and down this season. Andrew Nardi is right now posting up over a 4.75 ERA, but overall, it's been a bullpen that has been pretty presentable, and in my opinion, they've been able to do a solid job. You've got someone like Tyler Phillips, who's been able to give you sub 2 ERA, getting Pete Fairbanks off the injured list. Should help them out. Marlins are currently number 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. For the New York Mets, it's been up and down because Devin Williams has been absolutely awful, but they're not about 9th in terms of bullpen ERA at a 3.41. The likes of Andrew Warren, Escar Brisbane, Brooks Raley, these guys have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. Luke Weaver seems to be rounding into form, at a rough start to the season. He does seem to be improving, and in this Mets lineup, to their credit, they seem to be doing a little bit of a better job, but still 21st in the big leagues with about 4.1 runs per game. Carson Benjay all of a sudden hitting above his 250. That's a good sign for this team, and obviously Juan Soto, 9+ home runs, above a 375 on base. You know what you're going to be able to get out of him, and hey, Bo Bichette has a pair of home runs this week, so yay, barely there, but still, you've got a lot of guys like now MJ Melendez, Lewis, Torrance hitting below a 220. Marcus Semien had one of the worst challenges I've ever seen. He's hitting at 225. Bo Bichette is still hitting at 225, so you've got a lot of issues there. Meanwhile, for the Miami Marlins, this team is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues. In terms of home runs out of per at-bat pieces, Lee Mix has been able to give you 9 home runs, but other than that, not a ton of pop. Owen Casey did go deep yesterday, but he, Christopher Morel, Kyle Stowers, Jacob Marcy, Mack at the catcher spot, these guys are only at 225 or lower, but you do have Xavier Edwards giving you a bit of pop, 400 on base, Hicks 350 on base, Otto Lopez available at 350, so I do think that's an interesting circumstance here. Think that even now that you've got Tobias Myers out there, that you get the under ice semi-total 7.9, so 8 or higher. I'm going to be in on that under, and for the Marlins, made them a favorite of minus 126. I like them here on the money line. 955, 956 on the card. It's Washington Nationals. They are going to be on the road. They're facing off against the Atlanta Braves. We do know that Miles Mikolas, in some form or capacity, is going to be pitching. Currently, they have him listed as the starting pitcher, but they have utilized a lot of openers for him, so you want to be in a little bit of wait-and-see mode there. It's actually the Braves that have caused this to be off the board because it was looking like Bryce Elder should get the start, and right now, everywhere that I'm seeing still has Bryce Elder as a starter, and assuming that that's the case, I set the Braves here at a minus 241 on the money line. I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 124 on their run line. I would need at least a plus 242 to take a shot on the Nationals, and set a nice sky-high total here of a 9.7, 9.5 or less, like the over a 10 or higher to the under. If you do indeed get Bryce Elder, which again, that's a little bit of a question mark, I do think that we're going to see a little bit of regression with them. Right now, the ERA is a 2.01. You look on Baseball Savant, all those stuff numbers are not grading out well, but 320 fielding dependent, 8 strikeouts, 2.9 walks per 9 innings. He's keeping the ball in the yard, so you do like to be able to see that. Now, he does have to face off against the Washington Nationals team that I recognize that they actually do have some rather demonstrative big splits with regards to righties versus lefties. They have absolutely just raked against left-handed pitchers, like against lefties. They're in the top 5 in terms of on-base plus slugging and in terms of batting average. Meanwhile, against right-handed pitchers, in terms of batting average, are actually like 20th in the big leagues, are a little bit better with regards to on-base plus slugging, but still, they have been really feasting upon these lefties, and you do have CJ Abrams and James Wood that just carried the mail. Both of these guys over 370 on base. Both of these guys have been able to combine for 23 plus home runs this season. What are you going to get outside that, though, becomes a question. Dallin Lyle's been solid, hitting above a 250 with a little bit of power. Luis Garcia moves the line. He's able to hit about a 260, but Nasim Nunez sits below the middle of time 200. Andres Chaparro, in a small sample size, exercise has not been great. Dylan Cruz was rough last season. They just get him off the injury list. Might take him a little bit of time to be able to get acclimated. And with the Nationals, this is a bullpen that continues to be in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. They are getting Clayton Beeter back off the injury list. I don't know if that's a good thing. Now, Richard Dickey Lovely, he's actually supplying a sub-3 ERA, but Mitchell Parker has been awful in this bullpen. Gus Varland, about a 3.85 ERA. So these guys have not been great, and the Atlanta Braves continue to be a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Tyler Kinley has had a little bit of regression, but Dylan Lee, Racio Iglesias, Robert Suarez, I'll give you a sub-275 ERA. Ronaldo Lopez is now able to give you some long relief. The Dodd-father, Dylan Dodd, has been pretty solid as well, and the Braves, they're a top 3 team in terms of run creation. They do lose Drake Baldwin due to injury, but that said, now you've got Ronald Acuna Jr. back in the fold. Ozzy, Albies, hanging like a 275. He's been able to give you 8 home runs. Michael Harris has been able to do a great job getting on base, supplying some power. Dom Smith continues at above a 300. We need Mauricio Dubon. He's able to get on base as well, and for Miles Michaelis, he's been better recently. They've been utilizing a lot of openers for him, so I don't know if they might be throwing out there like PJ Poulin or something like that as an opener, but still a 6.91 ERA with 2.4 home runs and 3 walks per 9 innings with about 6 punch-outs per 9, so I did set a total to wear a 9.5 or less, like the over 10 or higher to the under, with Braves willing to lay up to minus 124 on the run line, plus 242 or better looking at the Nats. 957, 958 on the card. It's the Dodgers on the road against the Brewers. Logan Henderson goes for the Crew, and Justin Robelski goes for the Dodgers. Dodgers slim favorites here, anywhere between minus 112 to a minus 120. Meanwhile, with the Brewers, you're finding them anywhere between even money to minus 105. 8.5 is the total. Unders between even and minus 110. The overs between minus 110 to a minus 120. And with regards to the Brewers, I set them at a minus 103. So being able to get them on a pick-em line, I'm going to be willing to take the Brewers on a money line. I do think that Justin Robelski is just very much doing for regression. He does a nice job not hurting himself, keeping things out in front of him, but there's no swing and miss with him as of right now. 249 ERA, 339 fielding dependent. Again, 0.4 home runs, 2.1 walks per 9 innings, but 4.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. My goodness. You need to get a little bit more there. And then when it comes to Logan Henderson, he has been much better than the 350 ERA would indicate for the Brewers. How about a 250 fielding dependent, 11.5 strikeouts, 1.5 walks per 9 innings. And after a little bit of a shaky start to the season for Trevor McGill along with Abner Uribe, it feels like the bullpen is starting to come along for the ride as well for the Brewers. The likes of Crane Anderson, DL Turner Paul, Aaron Ashby. These guys have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Chad Patrick now becomes a long guy out of the bullpen. He's been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. And for the Brewers, this continues to be a top 7 team in terms of run creation, with their leader in homers being Jake Bauers with 7. Like, the Brewers are a bottom 3 team in terms of home run hitting. That should go up. You get back Jackson Chourio, Andrew Vaughn, Christian Yelich, who have all looked good since coming off the injury list, but I mean, this team is going to mix and match dink and dunk. Bauers has a 360 on base. William Gutierrez a 365 on base. Bryce Durang a 4 on base with 9 stolen bases. David Hamilton 10 stolen bases. You got Garrett Mitchell give you a 340 on base. This team just continues to find a way to move the line, and for the LA Dodgers, this is a unit that averages over 5.5 runs per game away from them. The offense has been much better away from them rather than at home. Max Muncy, 12 home runs, about a 365 on base. Recognize that Shohei Ohtani isn't to where he was the last few seasons with regards to that, but still 4 on base with 8 home runs. That's not much to scoff at. You've got Andy Paz, who's been in a little bit of a funk with regards to deep ball, but when you get 285, 10 home runs out of him. Freddie Freeman has had a few home runs over the last few days. He'll give you a 345 on base. Mookie Betts has not been himself since the back half of 2025, but when Miguel Rojas fills in, he's able to move the line as well. So do think that you get some scoring here, even though the Dodgers, they themselves have been a little bit better with regards to their bullpen pitching, as it looks like Tanner Scott is getting back to being that guy that he was a few seasons ago. But they do have Jack Dreyer now on the injury list. There's some Kyle Hurd as a sub 1 ERA. Will Klein has been able to give you about a 225 ERA. So you've got some guys that are starting to step up for this team, though Blake Tryon has been a little bit of an issue. I did so I tell you here at an 8.7, like the over for the Brewers, minus 1 or 2 or better, like that money line. 959, 960 on the card. It's the Diamondbacks playing against the Colorado Rockies as Tomoyuki Sugano goes for the Rockies. Michael Soroka is on the bump for Arizona. Arizona is between minus 184 to minus $2. Meanwhile, between plus 160 to plus 170 is that number on Colorado. 8.5 is the total. The over is between minus 115 to minus 120. Unders even to minus 105. And I do like the over. I saw my total at 8.6. Tomoyuki Sugano. It's a man that is very much due for regression. You look at the overall ERA, and it's not bad, but that said, the fielding dependent numbers and the way that he gives up a lot of contact is concerning. 402 ERA ERA, 550 fielding dependent, 1.7 home runs with only 4.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Meanwhile, you got a guy, Michael Soroka. He's the exact opposite. I believe that he's doing for positivity. I've liked what I've seen out of Michael Soroka, frankly, over the last 2 seasons. Right now, 3.49 ERA, and he's been able to really get it rocking and rolling. 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts, but at 297 fielding dependent, 10.1 strikeouts, 0.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's really not walking guys with about 2.6 walks per 9 innings. For the Diamondbacks, a relatively ordinary bullpen. They're about like 18th or so in terms of ERA going into Thursday night, but that said, you've been able to find some nice pieces with this team. Juan Murillo's now been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. I don't know how long that's going to be going. Kevin Ginkel's not necessarily a guy that I trust in too much, but sub-350 ERA. Ryan Thompson's been presentable. Jonathan Loaizaga, sub-3 ERA. Brandon Pfaadt is not good coming out of this bullpen, but overall, these guys have been able to do their job. For the Diamondbacks, they've been more of a league average offense this season, but feels like Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte is getting it going in. They don't have a single guy going into Thursday with more than 7 home runs, but a quartet of guys. Marte, Ilyarmo Vargas, Corbin Carroll, Nolan Arenado, with all having 7 home runs. Arenado, Vargas, Carroll, all hitting at least a 278 going into yesterday, so plenty of guys moving line for the team. Need more out of some of these guys like Adrian Del Castro and company, and Lourdes Gurriel's up in himself this season, but do think that that's coming sooner rather than later. And for the Colorado Rockies, it is a lineup that always has an on-base percentage that's like 70 to 80 points lower away from home rather than at home, but they've been better this year. Hunter Goodman, Mickey Moniak, combined 23 home runs. Both of these guys have been able to do an okay job of getting on base, especially Moniak, hitting at 285. Troy Johnson, he's been able to hit above a 300 this season. Now, you got some of these guys like Ezekiel Tovar, Brenton Doyle that have just given you nothing whatsoever. They're hitting below a 220. They just do not hit away from home. But Jake McCarthy is a former Arizona Diamondback, and games played away from home, about a 350 on base for him. TJ Bromfield in road games, about a 350 on base as well. Now, Willie Castro, when he's been out there in road starts, he's hitting about a $147 with no power whatsoever. That's not great, to say the least, but do think that you're going to get a little bit of offense there. And for the Rockies, the bullpen actually started out the year relatively solid. They're really experiencing some regression now. Jimmy Ergit, Victor Vodnik are currently on the injured list. You've had Zach Ognos have to be the long guy, and he had to make a start yesterday, so they had to mix and match in that, and that burnt up a lot of the bullpen. Juan Mejia, along with Brandon Bernardino, about a 3.80 ERA. Jaden Hill has been solid as well, but overall, I do think that you're going to get some scoring in this one. And with the Diamondbacks, I was willing to lay a minus 112 on the run line. Right now, you're finding that at plus money right around about plus 110, so I like the Snakes on the run line, and I do like the 8.5 to the over. 961, 962 on the card. The Yankees play host the Tampa Bay Rays, and Nick Martinez goes for the Rays, and Garrett Cole is on the bump for the Yankees. Yankees do find themselves between minus 150 to minus 162 favorites, plus 130 to plus 135 is that number on the Rays. 8 is the total. Over is anywhere between minus 105 to minus 110, minus 110 to minus 115 on the under. And with the Yankees, I did set their money line price here at a minus 154. If you're going to be looking to lay a run half with them, you're going to be finding that anywhere between about a plus 132 to a plus 140. Personally, I would rather take a plus 140 on the run line. Now, for Garrett Cole, very shaky in his minor league rehab starts. It took him a little bit longer to get up to the big league level than a lot of people expected. He had to make 6 minor league rehab starts, had about a 4.66 ERA, was giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 innings. Swing and miss stuff was able to come back to him in those last few minor league rehab starts, so that's a good thing, but still, it doesn't appear as though he's going to be in the world's greatest form. Should be able to give you a little bit more length than many guys coming off the injured list, and even if he doesn't, you still have someone like a Ryan Yarbrough that's able to give you a sub-4 ERA as a long guy out of the bullpen. Now, David Bednar, along with Camilo Duvall, have been a little bit rough in the back end, but you do have these guys like a Brent Hedrick, Tim Hill, Fernando Cruz, who've been able to give you a sub-350 ERA, but you do have a Rays team that I think is very underrated at the plate with the Tampa Bay Rays right now. This is a unit that has been averaging about 4.8 runs per game. That's the top 8 mark in all baseball. Junior Caminero giving you a double-figure amount of homers. Andy Diaz continues to move the line. He, along with Jonathan Aranda, both give you over a 370 on base. Chandler Simpson is one of the best base stealers in all of baseball, and he hits a 300 as well. And all of a sudden, the catcher spot with Nick Fortes and company, they're giving you something. Johnny DeLuca is hitting about a 270. The Rays have been a little bit up and down with their bullpen. It's been much better over the last 30 days as you've had the former Orioles and Brian Baker, along Cole Sulzer, be able to come out of the bullpen, and they've been able to give you a sub-375 ERA, but I believe it's Cole Sulzer who's on the injured list. One of the 2 former Orioles are, so that does hurt them a little bit, but you've been able to get some relatively good production recently out of Ian Seymour after he was miserable to start the season. Kevin Kelly has been able to give you sub-3 ERA. You get Garrett Clevenger off the injured list as well. I just think that Nick Martinez is doing for a bit of regression. 151 ERA, but fielding dependent, that's more around about a 326. Not that he's given up a lot of walks, only about 2 walks per 9 innings. He just pitches to a lot of contact. 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, going up against a Yankees team that entered into yesterday numero uno in terms of run scoring at home with about 6.3 runs per game. Now, they still need to work on the infielders because you've got some like a Jazz Chisholm who continues to hit below a 240, the entire catcher spot, along with going to the outfield in this one. Trent Grisham not giving you much of anything whatsoever. Anthony Volpe is all over the place, same with Ryan McMahon, but you do have Aaron Judge, Ben Rice, 14 plus home runs apiece out of these guys, both of these guys above a 375 on base. Cody Bellinger is able to give you about a 375 on base as well. So, do think they get a higher scoring game? Well, take the Yankees at a plus 137 or better on the run line. I like the over, so I might tell it at 8.7. 963, 964 on the card. It's the Twins. They're going to be on the road against the Boston Red Sox. Peyton Doley is on the bump for the Sox, and Connor Prelup goes for the Twins. The Twins are a underdog here between plus 122 to a plus 130. Meanwhile, minus 144 to minus 156 at number on Boston. 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 7.5 overs, minus 115, minus 120. The unders between even a minus 105. On the 8 unders, minus 115, overs minus 105, and I do like the over. I sub I tell it at 8.7. Now for the Red Sox, they have been no good, very bad, terrible with their offense at home this year. They're averaging 2.77 runs per game at home. I do think that there's positivity to him for this. Like, with the Red Sox, they were a top 10 team in terms of run creation last year, and they're not going to get back there this year. I also don't think that you average more than 4.4 runs per game away from Fenway, and fewer than 2.8 runs per game at Fenway for the entirety of the season. Fenway should be a little bit more of a hitter's ballpark, and I do think that that shows through sooner rather than later, as Weiler Abreu has wild out. He's been able to give you about a 300 average with a little bit of power. Wilson Contreras continues to give you over 350 on base. He's been able to supply 8+ home runs. Obviously, when you're dealing with the likes of Roman Anthony and company on the injury list, that hurts, but you've got Masataka Yoshida give you over 350 on base. Cedon Rafael about a 350 on base. Now, you need more out of Jaron Durham, but he's had a few home runs over the last few days, still hitting a $195, and Marcelo Meyer, Carlos Narvaez both hitting at 221 as an issue. And man, the Caleb Durbin trade is not working out for this team, but you also do have a Red Sox team that has been a top 5 unit. In terms of bullpen ERA, Garrett Woodlock is a good long guy who's able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Giovanni Morin has been pretty good in terms of holding down the fort. Obviously, Aroldis Chapman has been an amazing closer, but how about Tyler Semenaicho giving you a sub-2 ERA? And then when it comes to man that's going in this game, in Peyton Doley, he's been able to give you about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, a rock-solid 2.05 ERA. Fielding dependent is more around about a 3.21, not really giving up the deep ball with about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, but I do have a little bit of thought that there's going to be a bit of regression there. And for Connor Prelup, he has been able to do a nice job since getting called up to the big league level as well. For Prelup, he's been able to go out there, supply about a 2.88 ERA, but again, 4.19 fielding dependent, 1.4 home runs, 3.2 walks per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a bullpen that's just all sorts of terrible. For the Twins, this team is a bottom 3 unit in terms of bullpen ERA, with having Cody Funderburk being like the only guy in this bullpen that you can trust in any form or capacity. There's just so many guys right now that are not doing their part that it's not even funny. You just take a look down the list of these guys, like in Eric Orze, Cole Sands. These are your more trustworthy guys at a sub-5 ERA. Then you get to Zach Kent, who's like at a 4.75 ERA. Justin Topa, an 8 ERA. Luis Garcia has been awful. Anthony Band has been awful. Travis Adams, 4.75 ERA. Like, you don't have really anyone other than Funderburk. They're able to trust it in this bullpen, so I do think that the Red Sox emerge with their offense like this total over, so I told it at 8.7. For the Red Sox, we'll lay up to minus 156 on the money line, set that at a minus 157, 965, 966 on the card. It's the Orioles. They're going to be playing goes to the Tigers. Captain Jack Flaherty is on the bump for the Tigres, and Chris Bassett has the hook, line, and sinker for Baltimore. And Baltimore is a favorite between minus 130 to minus 135, plus 110 to a plus 115 is that number on the Tigers. 8.5 is the total. Over and under both at minus 110, and Tigers have lost 14 out of their last 16 games, and I'm the schmuck that made them the favorite. I set them at a minus 117. You've got two very struggling veteran pitchers out there with Jack Flaherty. He's still getting the strikeout stuff. He's given up 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. That's not awful. 9.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. 6 walks per 9 innings. Yeah, that has been less than ideal to say the least, but it's not like Chris Bassett is going out there and lighting the world on fire. 6 strikeouts to 4.3 walks per 9 innings, 5.44 ERA. I will say he's been better recently. He's given up 1 earned run in 2 out of his last 4 starts, but he's had a 4+ spot in 3 out of his last 5 as well. Now for the Tigers, this is all of a sudden a bottom 5 team in terms of run creation, even though they do have quite a few guys that do a solid job in terms of moving the line. You can tell that the likes of Gleyber Torres, Javi Baez and company being on the injury list is really taking a toll on this team, and Spencer Torkelson just has not been great this season. .194 average. You don't have anyone with more than 8 home runs, and it would be Dylan Dingler, who's got the 8 home runs as far this season, but Riley Green at 422 on base. Kevin McGonigal gives you about a 395 on base. Cole Keith has been able to about a 280 for this team. Now, you need these other guys. I mentioned Torkelson, throwing there Wencio Perez, Jahmai Jones, Gage Workman. These are guys hitting below the middle side of 200, Zach McKinstry, and that's been a hodgepodge to say the least, but I do think that they get going a little bit more against Bassett, and for the Orioles, they have been a much better offense when they have been at home rather than away from home. They need to get more out of Gunnar Henderson, who, in terms of the deep ball, he's been able to give you 10 home runs, but 220 average, 271 on base. You just see quite a bit more there. Pete Alonso has been a flop to this point, 9 home runs, hitting just a 230. Taylor Ward only 2 home runs after he had 30 plus with the Angels last year, but he has given you about a 4 on base. Leody Taveras moves the line for the team, but some of these young guys like Colton Cowser, Tyler O'Neill, Kobe Mayo, these are guys hitting below the middle side of 200, so you're going to need to get a little bit more there for the Orioles. It is a bullpen that's been a little bit up and down this season. Dietrich Enzo continues to give you a sub 375 ERA. Keegan Aikens is coming out the injury list. He and Andrew Kittredge just have not been able to find it, but Ynier Cano along with Uncle Rico Garcia, these have been guys that have been able to go out there, give you a sub 3 ERA, so it is a very interesting circumstance. But with the Tigers, this has been a team that's been much better with their bullpen, because even though the Orioles have a few trustworthy guys, they are now in the bottom 10 in terms of bullpen here, the Tigers are more roundabout league average, and I recognize that Tyler Holden has been a little bit struggling with a 470 ERA, but now you get Wolfess off the injury list, Kyle Finnegan, Brian Herter, Birch Smith, even someone like a Brendan Hennefy give you a sub 375 ERA. Think that the Tigers do enough to be able to get back online here. Set my total at 8.8, like the over, and I made the Tigers a favorite. I'm taking that plus money on the money line. 967, 968 on the card. The Royals are going to be playing host to the Seattle Mariners. Logan Gilbert goes for Seattle, and Noah Cameron goes for Kansas City. Kansas City is a underdog here of anywhere between plus 113 to a plus 118, and minus 134 to a minus 140 is the number on Seattle. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8.5. Under is minus 120, the over is even. On the 8, the over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. I set the Mariners here at a minus 138, so seeing that like minus 134, minus 135, I don't want to go past that, but I'm going to be one thing shot here on the money line. When it comes to Logan Gilbert, he always has had some rough home and road splits, and he's not having the world's greatest start to the season. 445 ERA, 441 fielding dependent, 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, but still, 9.1 strikeouts to 1.9 walks per 9 innings. That leads me to think that there's going to be a little bit of positivity here. And for Logan Gilbert, I always mention the home and road splits with him. He's actually been better on the road this year. 159 ERA away from home, right around about a 567 ERA at home. So that's the reverse of what we've seen in past years. That's very interesting to say the least. And hard to have a lot of faith in Noah Cameron here. He was extremely lucky last season, and this season he has not been. A 5.40 ERA. Now he is posting up closer to 3.95 fielding dependent. 1.1 home runs, 3 walks per 9 innings. Not a lot of swing miss with about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. So as a Marlins team has been pretty darn atrocious in terms of run creation away from home. For the Seattle Mariners, averaging about 4.2 runs per game. They average a little bit less at home, but that's because Seattle is like a top 5 ballpark in terms of being able to spread offense in all baseball. And for this team, they're still dealing with the injury to Cal Raleigh. Honestly, not the world's worst thing with the way that he's performed thus far this season. That said, it's still not a place where you want to be. And when it comes to the rest of these guys, J.P. Crawford is barely hitting above the mid-dose line of 200. I like Randy Rosarenas. Not really giving you a lot of power, but he has been able to give you over a 375 on base. Now, J.P. Crawford, who's not giving you a lot of batting average, but is giving you some on base. Right now, he's dealing with a little bit of injury, and Brandon Donovan is back on the injury list. That's rough, to say the least. But Josh Naylor, Julio Rodriguez, after rough starts of the season, they're both hitting at 250 plus and starting to pick it up with regards to their power. And for the Mariners, this continues to be a top 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. They now have Matt Brash off the injury list. He, Edward Bizardo, Cooper Criswell, Jose Ferrer. I'll give you sub 325 ERA. Andres Munoz really struggled to begin the season at the closer spot. He seems to be rounding into form. And the Royals, they are in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Carlos Aceves has been on the injury list all season long, and now they've got Matt Strahm on the injury list as well. Alex Lang, a 5+ ERA. Nick Mears right around about a 3 ERA. He's been relatively presentable, but Steven Cruz has not been. Lucas Ursuch has been a little bit shaky, does appear, so he's rounding into form, but something that you need to know about this Royals team, they have hit much better at home rather than away from home. Right now for the Royals, about 4.65 runs per game at home compared to 3.04 away from home. They moved the fences in at Kauffman Stadium. That has really helped them out big time, but you still need much more out of Salvador Perez along with Vinny Pasquantino. These are a pair of guys with a combined 13 home runs, with neither guy giving you above a 279 on base. That's not great. Bobby Witt Jr., 7 home runs over the last 3 days, so hitting about a 300. That's fine. And you've got guys that are getting on base, like Jack Aguillon, Miguel Garcia, Kyle Isabel, all in between about a 253 to 270. Maybe they don't draw a ton of walks, but they're fine. Starling Marte, a small sample size, about a 350 on base. You've had the Lane train, Lane Thomas, added for average, but has been able to give you about a 350 on base as well. But I do think that the Mariners, in the end, get to Cameron, get the job done. Semi-tell it at 8.4, so with regards at 8, I do like the over and the Mariners on the money line. 969, 970 on the card. It's the Rangers on the road against the LA Angels. We do know that one Mr. Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers. For the Angels, this is all to be determined, so this is a game that is presently off the board. This was originally going to be Grayson Allen's start. He made one start for the team. He got completely shelled there, and as of right now, he's still showing as a starter for the team. We shall see what happens there, and if you do get Grayson Rodriguez going for the Angels, I did set the Rangers on the money line at a minus 143, so I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 142 there, plus 144 better looking at the Halos, and then I did set a total to where a 7.5 or less. I like the over at 8 or higher to the under. Now, if you don't get Grayson Rodriguez, that kicks up by half a run, and the Rangers probably become closer to about minus 165 to minus 170 on the money line. For Grayson Rodriguez, he's got so much upside, but man, he missed an entire year in 2025, and he looked absolutely awful coming back. That's not great, to say the least. Like, when he's rocking and rolling, that fastball is great. It clearly is not there right now, so you've got some issues there. He gave up 7 runs, I believe it was, in 3 2/3 innings, and if you don't get him, well, you don't get Alek Manoah because it completely outrighted him to the minors, which that's just a slap in the face right there. You might get someone like a Mitch Ferris as a little bit of a long guy. You're getting a poop platter of pitchers for a bullpen that is currently 29th out of 30 teams in terms of bullpen ERA. Just still Seth has not been awful in this bullpen, but Nick Sandlin, he's been supplying over an 11 ERA. Ryan Johnson, one of their main long guys, a 15 ERA. Sean Anderson, whenever they've thrown him out there, is awful. This is just a complete giant turd of an Angels pitching staff right now, other than Jose Soriano. And for the Angels, they're a bottom 5 team in terms of run creation at home. They're averaging less than 3.5 runs per game at home, so there's really not much going well for the Angels. They do have Mike Trout with 12 home runs, about a 4 on base, but he's been cold recently. Ori Soler had that nice start to the season, starting to give you a little bit more with the power, but he's still hitting at 213 with a 303 on base. Zach Neto is hitting about a 220. I mean, Soler and Neto combined 17 home runs, but they're going back to being that all-or-nothing team. Josh Lowe, Yoel Moncada, Logan O'Hoppe, all below the Mendoza line of a 200. And then on the flip side, you've got a Texas Rangers team that, yeah, they've been a bottom 5 team in terms of run creation, but I still continue to say this. Arlington is really suppressing offense. You take a look at the home and road splits right now of this Rangers team, and they're averaging only 3 runs per game at home, 4.6 runs per game away from home, though. That's actually a top 12 mark in all of baseball. That's a respectable mark. You've got Jake Berger, who really doesn't get on base, but he supplies 9 home runs with that about 290 on base. They're still dealing with the injury to Corey Seager, but Brandon Nimmo's give you a 350 on base. Josh Young is hitting above 300. Don't call his name Alejandro Ozuna. He's been able to give you about a 400 on base. You've got guys that are moving the line for this team, and for the Rangers, they're the opposite of the Angels. They are numero uno in terms of bullpen area. They've dealt with a few injuries with Chris Martin and company, but they're starting to get these guys back. Gavin Collier has been good out of this bullpen with a sub-3 ERA. Same goes for Jalen Beeks, Tyler Alexander, Jacob Latch, Jacob Junis. All of these guys have gone out there and done their part coming out of this bullpen, so I do think that the Rangers should be a demonstrative favorite, especially with the fact that Jacob deGrom is swinging mid off his back, 10.8 straight cuts per 9 innings. Now, he is giving up the deep ball. He has been giving up over 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, so 3.02 ERA, a significantly higher fielding dependent, but he's still giving up less than 2.7 walks per 9 innings as well. So if it is indeed Grayson Rodriguez, willing to lay up to minus 142 on the Rangers, plus 144 or better. Looking at the Halos, if it's not Grayson Rodriguez, this goes plus 165, plus 170. And then with deGrom versus Rodriguez, 7.5 or less, like the over, 8 or higher to the under. If not Rodriguez, 8 or less, the over, 8.5 or higher, the under. 971, 972 on the card. It's the Astros. They are going to be on the road against the Chicago Cubs. James Satayan goes for the Cubs. Spencer Arrighetti, Mount Spaghetti, is on the bump for the Astros. Astros are between plus 118 to plus 122. Underdogs, meanwhile, minus 138 to minus 145. That number on the Chicago Cubs, 7 is a total, over and under, both at minus 110. And I do like the over, even though the wind is going to be blowing in. It's going to be a little bit more directional, so not as bad as I think a lot of people are anticipating. And flat out, I think that these guys are going to put a lot of men on base without the ball being in play, because for Spencer Arrighetti, well, you take a look at that 150 ERA, it is impressive. The 361 fielding dependent, it is a concern with 5.3 walks per 9 innings, and that Astros bullpen dead stinking last in all of baseball with a 5.72 ERA. I mean, you've been able to have Bennett Sosa be able to give you a few okay innings. AJ Blueball has been a little bit better, but pretty much everyone in this bullpen has north of a 3.50 ERA. ERA aside from Kai-Wei Tang, and now they've had to use him as a starter recently. So, you still have Brian Abreu, who's been absolutely awful in this bullpen. They're getting back Nate Pearson, but he's probably going to be a little bit, shall we say, shaky to begin this season. You've got Bennett Sosa, who's now on the injured list, by the way. You've got Steven Okert, who's able to give you like a 3.43 ERA, but man, not great there. And ever since Carlos Correa went down with an injury, this offense has toilet bowled. You do have Christian Walker still give you 9 home runs, over 325 on base. You've had Yordan Alvarez do an amazing job. He's giving you over 400 on base. He's been able to give you 14 plus home runs. But the Zachs, like Zach Cole along with Zach DeZenzo out there in the outfield, are not giving you too much of anything. Joey Looper, Fido being on the injury list has pressed Cam Smith, Bryce Matthews into bigger roles than they haven't delivered, though Isaac Paredes is moving line. I do think that you're going to be able to get a little bit more out of this offense, though, because James Taillon, he's honestly lucky to have a 4.87 ERA, 6.68 fielding dependent, 2.8 home runs, 3 walks allowed per 9 innings, not getting a lot of strikeouts, but also backed up by a lineup that is in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of run creation themselves. Now for the Cubs, they don't necessarily have that one main power guy right now. Ian Happ has been able to supply 10 home runs, and the batting average isn't great, but the on-base has been relatively solid out of him. He's been able to give you about a 3.53 on-base. Beaker Armstrong has had, shall we say, a myriad of issues over the last week or so, but you still have so many guys that do just continue to supply, get on base. Seiya Suzuki, 7 home runs, 370 on base. Nico Horner, 350 on base. Alex Bregman still hasn't quite been himself, but still 332 on base. He'll eat up Carson Kelly about a 380 on base, and for the Cubs, they themselves had dealt with a lot of injuries in their bullpen, but now they're getting healthy. Daniel Palencia has been really good since coming off the injury list. You're getting back Caleb Theobar. Hobie Milner has been really good this year, sub 3 ERA, but still, I do think that even though the wind is going to be blowing in / directional a little bit here, you do get some runs in this game. I said I told it an 8.7, so I like the over, and I do think that the Cubs get to Arrighetti and that bullpen. Set my money line price at a minus 152, so in on the Cubs, and I'm going to be in on this total to the over as well. 973, 974 on the card. It's the Phillies. They playoffs to the Cleveland Guardians. Gavin Williams goes for Cleveland. Cadiz for Sanchez is on the bump for the Phillies, and Phillies are between minus 175 to minus 185 favorites, and between plus 150 to plus 160 is that number on Cleveland, and the total is 7. The under is anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 115, and the over is minus 105 to a minus 110. And for the Guardians, I needed at least a plus 173 to be able to take a shot here. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Phillies, between plus 130 and plus 135, I'm willing to take a shot there. I needed at least a plus 122 to be able to do so. For Gavin Williams, he does have some very demonstrative home and road splits, and I do like the swing and miss stuff that you're getting out of Gavin Williams this season. 367 ERA, 376 fielding dependent. He's up to about 10.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1.3 home runs, right around about 3.2 walks per 9 innings. But on the road this year, it's been just completely different. 497 road ERA. On the road, he's given up closer to about 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. At home, less than 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. At ERA goes down to 251, and Christopher Sanchez, in his last 3 starts, 24 shutout innings. I just don't think that that's going to be continuing, even though he has been magnificent. 182 ERA, 193 fielding dependent, 11.2 strikeouts, 2 walks, 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. But Guardians are averaging about 5.2 runs per game here in the month of May. I don't think that it's going to be a mainstay, but you've had a lot of ancillary pieces step up. Travis Bazzana says he got called up from the minors, former number 1 overall pick, 4 on base, few home runs. Now you need the, shall we say, superstar guys to be able to step up, because even Jose Ramirez, you just expect a little bit more than a 236 average and right around about 8 or so home runs. You've got Rhys Hoskins hitting below the middle side 200. Stephen Kwan has been awful. You're starting to get a little bit more out of Kyle Manzardo, but he's been rough as well. But Brian Rocchio is now hitting at 290. Ano Martinez, 9 home runs. Chase Salauter continues to give you a 350 on base. Daniel Schneemann has been presentable. And for the Guardians, this has been an up and down bullpen, right around about league average in terms of ERA. But Tim Aaron is sub 3 ERA. Hunter Gaddis began the season on the injury list, so he hasn't been himself. You're getting back Jordan Armstrong. That should help in terms of length. And Cade Smith, after a rough start to the season, he's been able to improve as well. For the Philadelphia Phillies, it's been an up and down bullpen from them, but getting Yohan Duran back, that certainly is going to be able to help them out. And Ryan Kirkering has dealt with injuries throughout the season. When he's been out there, he's been able to give you sub 3 ERA. Jose Alvarado's been better in recent weeks, but still north of a 6 ERA. He has not been the same guy since that drug suspension. Jonathan Bolin has not necessarily been great as well. So I do think that you're going to get some runs up on the board in this game. Semi-total 7.6, like the over for the Phillies, plus 122 or better. I'm willing to take a shot here, because with the Phillies, they were number 3 in the big leagues in terms of run creation at home last year. You can tell that this team is starting to get back online with their offense. It's been mainly Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper who have been able to do the damage. Harper giving you over 375 on base. He'd be able to supply 12 home runs. runs. And then obviously with Kyle Schwarber, he's dealing with an injury. He's been day-to-day, but I'm thinking he should be all good to go here because it was more of an illness, not so much like an injury. So I think that you're going to be able to get him back out there and you need him. He's been able to supply 20 home runs. Like Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Trey Turner in the infield have been a bit rough. Along JT Realmuto, but Justin Crawford, Brandon Marsh, they move the line. So like the over and the Phillies run line, 975, 976 on the card. It's Pirates. They're going to be on the road facing off against the Blue Jays as Kevin Gausman goes for the Jays. Bubba Chandler is on the bump for the Buccos. The Pirates do find themselves between plus 135 to plus 142. Meanwhile, minus 155 to minus 163. So that number on Toronto, 8 is a total over and under both at minus 110. And for Toronto, I set them at a minus 146. If you're looking to lay run half here with the Toronto Blue Jays, you're going to be getting that in the neighborhood about plus 130, plus 135. I would need more like a plus 145 to be able to do so. And when it's all said and done, I do think that once we get the timelines out, we're going to be able to get the Pirates at a plus 146 or better, which I need to be able to take. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing a plus 148 pop up right now. So I'm going to be in on the Pirates on the money line. Even though Bubba Chandler has had a few, shall we say, issues here thus far this season, I do think that he's got a lot of upside. He's a very young guy. I think that he's checking in like age 23 or something like that. And for Chandler, he's been just having an issue with regards to walks. Right now, 6.6 walks per 9 innings. He's got good swing and miss stuff, even though he's down at 7.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. I think that things are going to turn around for him just a little bit here. He has given up 300 yards or fewer in 3 of his last 4 starts. And for the Blue Jays, it has been an offense that has really struggled. 23rd in the big leagues with about 4.1 runs per game. George Springer has clearly not been himself thus far this season, and you've got plenty of guys to get on base. Miles Straw, Vlager Jr., Ernie Clement, these are guys hitting at 270 or better, but for Guerrero, I entered into the day yesterday with just 3 home runs this season. You're going to need to get a little bit more there. Dalton Varsho even is hitting like a 275. He typically doesn't hit for any average whatsoever, but don't call his name Alejandro Kirk. It's been on the injury list. Your main power bat has been Kazuma Okamoto, who's been able to supply 10 home runs this far this season, and for the Blue Jays, they've been able to get online with their bullpen. They've still had a few, shall we say, albatrosses, because yeah, it's not been great to say the least with Mason Flaherty rocking north of a 4-year. Jeff Hoffman has not been great, but Braden Fisher, who was the opener yesterday, Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, these are guys that are giving you a sub-3.25 ERA. And on the other end of things for the Pirates, you've seen a little bit of shakiness recently with this bullpen. Isaac Manson has been a little bit up and down, but Mace Montgomery, like a 3.79 ERA. Last year, Dennis Santana was supplying a sub-250 ERA. We've seen a little bit of regression there to a 4.43. I think that he'll improve. Don't have a lot of faith in Gregory Soto, but I do like the way that you've got so many guys on this lineup for the Pirates that are able to get on base. Connor Griffin, after a rough first few weeks of the season, he's been able to get online. You've got Brandon Lau along with Onyo Cruz, who'll be able to give you a double-figure amount of bombs. You've got Lau being able to give you over 340 on base. Spencer Horwitz over 360 on base. Nick Gonzalez is hitting above 3, and Brian Reynolds is giving you over 350 on base. They do a great job against both righties and lefties, so I do think that for the Pirates, they do a nice job here of getting to a guy in Kevin Gausman who's been okay with his swing and miss stuff. Typically, it's a little bit better for him, but I think that he's been able to do a relatively presentable job this far this season. You know that Gausman is going to do a relatively good job in terms of not beating himself, for lack of a better term. Right now, 3.45 ERA, 3.09 fielding dependent, 0.9 home runs, 1.4 walks per 9 innings. So this is a total that I set at a 7.9. Here at the 8, I do like the under, and for the Pirates, plus 147 or better, like that money line. 977, 978 on the card. It's the Athletics. They are going to be on the road against East Lame Diego Padres. We do know that Walker Buehler is going to be on the bump for the Pods, and right now for the Athletics, it's old to be determined. This is a game that is presently off the board. Now, when I looked at Fangraphs, ESPN, all these places, they are projecting Jeffrey Springs to be able to get the start here, and assuming that you do get Jeffrey Springs, I did set the Padres at a minus 148 on the money line. Willing to go up to a minus 147 there, plus 149 or better, looking at the Athletics, and then 7.5 or less, like the over, 8 or higher to the under. If you do indeed get Springs, ever since he got to Oakland/Sacramento, he has been much better when he has been away from home rather than at home. In Sacramento, he's got an ERA that's nearly a full point higher than he has away from home. 3.93 ERA, 4.27 fielding dependent, and if it's not Jeffrey Springs, you're probably looking at more like a minus 160, minus 165 on the Padres, because I actually do think that Walker Buehler is starting to turn it around a little bit. The ERA may not indicate it, but for Mr. Buehler, he's got a 5.01 ERA, closer to 3.74 fielding dependent. He's not really getting hurt by the deep ball. 0.9 home runs, 3 walks per 9 innings, 8.1 strikeouts per 9 innings is the highest it's been since 2021 for him. He's just dealt with a rash rash of different injuries, taking him a few years to be able to get back, but feels like he is starting to get back. And for the Padres, it's hard to take much of a run line on them because the offense has not necessarily been great, but you know how locked down this bullpen is. They've got a sub-3 ERA at home with their bullpen throughout the season. Now, Adrian Morejon has had some issues. He's posting up like a 4.88 ERA, but Jeremiah Estrada, after a shaky start to the season, down below 3.70. Jason Adam, Mason Miller, just a great 1-2 punch, both giving you a sub-250 ERA. And then with the Padres, you just need to get a little bit more power out of these guys. You now have Gavin Sheets supplying 9 home runs. He's giving you about a 340 on base, so he's been able to come along for the ride. Xander Bogaerts, Manny Machado, 7 home runs apiece. Machado's giving you no on base, 178 batting average. Bogaerts continues at about a 250, so he's been fine. But Fernando Tatis Jr., 0 home runs this far this season. Like, it boggles the human mind. You do have a few, shall we say, dead bats like Ramon Laureano, Jackson Merrill. These are guys hitting 215 or lower. Nick Castellanos, Jake Cronenworth, when he's been out there, it's Cronenworth as well with injury. That's been an issue as well. And then on the flip side for the Athletics, they've been about a league average team with regards to their offense away from home. They hit much better at home because Sacramento is a launching pad, but Shea Langolaris, Shea is banged for 12 home runs this far this season with a 395 on base. Nick Kurtz, he continues to give you about 8 home runs. What he really does a great job of is drawing walks. Leads the league in walks, 434 on base. You had Brent Rooker start the year on the injured list, / he played for like a few games and then he hit the injured list, but since coming off, he's been much better. But you do need more of someone like a Lawrence Butler hitting below the middle sign 200. Denzel Clark, when they've given him at bats, has been an issue, but giving back Zach Aloff, who's been able to give you 6 home runs at 100 bats, hitting a 250, that's big. But Tyler Soderstrom, it's been a disappointment as well. And for the Athletics, they're slightly below a league average with regards to bullpen ERA. You've got a few guys like, I'm most definitely looking at you, Mark Leiter Jr., who are not very trustworthy in this bullpen. Jack Perkins, over a 4 ERA, so the long relievers have not been great. But these guys like Luis Medina, Hogan Harris, Joel Kuhnel, they're giving you a sub-310 ERA. Scott Barlow's below 350 as well. So it's a very interesting circumstance here. I do think that Buehler in that bullpen, though, is able to shut it down. I'm willing to lay up to minus 147 on the Padres, plus 149 or better if you do have Springs on the Athletics. If you don't have Springs, probably closer to about a plus 160, plus 165 on the Athletics. And in Springs versus Buehler, 7.5 or less like the over, 8 or higher to the under. If it's odd Springs, 8 or less to the over, 8.5 or higher to the under. And wrap things up with 979, 980. The White Sox, they are on the road against the Giants. Trevor Old McDonald is on the bump for the Giants, and Davis Martin goes for the White Sox. White Sox find themselves in a relative pick'em game. You're going to be getting them anywhere between minus 108 to a minus 115, even money to minus 108. That number on San Francisco, 7 to 7.5 is the total on the 7. Over is minus 120, the under is even on the 7.5. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. So I told 7.2. Per se, I would rather take a shot on a 7 to the over, and I really like what I've seen out of Davis Martin this season. I felt like he was a good prospect coming out of Texas Tech many years ago, but that said, I do think that there's a little bit of regression to him for a $1.61 ERA. Now, the fielding independent is still at 239, 9.5 strikeouts, 1.6 walks per 9 innings, half home run allowed per 9, but I also think that there's a little bit of positivity doing for the Giants lineup as well. You actually had William Adames and Rafael Devers go deep in a game at the same time in like 2 or 3 days ago, so I mean that's great because they wasted a lot of money on those two guys as neither's giving over 300 on base. I think that they have combined like 11 home runs thus far this season, so you need to get a little bit more there. But Casey Schmidt has been able to breathe a little bit of life into the Giants. He's been able to hit above a 285. He's up to 9 home runs. You still have guys that are able to get on base, like Jung-Ho Lee. He's been able to about a 270. Recognize that Eloy Ramos is right now dealing with a little bit of injury, but when he's been out there, Daniel Susech at the catcher spot is giving you over a 4 on base. I recognize it's a small sample size, but that helps out the team quite a bit as well. Matt Chapman continues to be absolutely miserable for the team, but Luis Rise continues to hit above a 300 as well. And then with the Giants, they've got the far better bullpen in this game. They're a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. The White Sox are a bottom 8 team when you're relying upon Jordan Hicks and Sergio Dominguez in the back half of games. That's not great. Now, I like Grant Taylor. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, and Sean Newcomb has been relatively solid as well. But Jordan leisurely giving over a 4 ERA. Brian Hudson has been solid, but it feels like the relievers of the White Sox have been all or nothing, and there's just too many guys that are roll the dice to really trust in them. Meanwhile, for the San Francisco Giants, you've had quite a few guys step up in this bullpen. The likes of Keaton Wynn, Yoel Piguero just came off the injury list, Matt Gage. These are guys giving you a sub-215 ERA. Sam Entiges has yet to give up an earned run. Caleb Killian has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. So they've done a nice job in terms of mixing and matching there. And it is a White Sox team that they are very much going for the deep ball. And now they're in one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball out there in San Francisco. Montaka Murakami, 17 home runs, 380 on base. He continues to be amazing. And then Colson Montgomery, Miguel Vargas. Both of these guys have been able to give you 11-plus home runs. Both guys are below a 240, though. And Andrew Benintendi, 3 home runs with a 288 on base. You just expect a little bit more there. Now, they've got guys moving the line, the same Antonasi and Tristan Peters in the outfield. Both of these guys hitting above a 255, but the entire catcher spot with Edgar Quijano and company has not been great. Luano Acuna is hitting like a 235 with 0 home runs for his on base. Like, that's not great, to say the least. So it's an interesting circumstance here with Trevor McDonald. It's been a small sample size for him at the big league level. He's only made 7 career appearances. He's been good in those appearances, though. He's got a lifetime 195 ERA, 0.7 home runs, 1.5 walks allowed per 9 innings. So a little bit of a tricky spot, but I do think that the Giants get to that bullpen. I like the over, so my total 7.2. And for the Giants, I set them at a minus 113. So like the money line of the Giants, that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show. Now part of the VSiN family podcast. Big thanks to our guy Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Otherwise, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire into whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast, giving you guys picks and analysis on every single game, every single day. So I will be back with you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you.